It is cold this morning, folks. Welcome back. This is Darth checking in again. So this morning, we're going to be talking about The Great Hunt, and this evening I'll be back with The Shadow Rising, and, no, not The Great Hunt, sorry, The Dragon Reborn. Got The Great Hunt done yesterday. I feel like I am just not doing a great job of conveying all the stuff that happens that's impactful in these books, but I can't. They're just too big, and there's too much going on all at once. So I'm gonna keep up the trend that I have been doing, where I erratically and spastically jump around through some things that I particularly enjoy, and hopefully also give a little bit more of like a writer's or a director's eye, and help frame it through that context, and also talk a bit about those things that you notice on your reread that you didn't notice in the first read through because it just didn't matter yet. In book 2, The Great Hunt, I gave The Great Hunt a 9. I think it's a fantastic book. It might even be a 9.5, but I'm gonna stick with the 9 for now. But now that we're on to The Great Hunt, The Great Hunt is not my favorite. So here's what's going on with this one, right? We've got Rand, who his image has been spread around the world a little bit. I think it's either here or the beginning of Shadow Rises, where Pedron Nile is looking at an image of him. I think it's this one, because Shadow Rises is kind of the fallout and the consequence of Mordeth running away from Falma. So. We've got Rand's image becoming pretty widely circulated. We have him not coping with it and with who he is super well and kind of running off. Moraine shows back up at the... I think it was at the end of 2. It might be the beginning of 3. She's just kind of there, that was a little heavy-handed. I think that... I forgot to say, in The Great Hunt, when we cut away to her, she was with Adelaus and Vandine, and doing all the studies on the Forsaken. So there's more setup going on, right? Robert Jordan, for all that we're 3 giant books in, is still in his intro, because if you recall, he initially wanted a trilogy, and his trilogy, whenever he first conceptualized the series, the first book of it ran through The Dragon Reborn and Getting Kalendor. So this is still, by his mind, the introduction to the series. And we've got this whole weird plot line with Rand running away, and this is where the books really, really open up, and we get a lot of different character perspectives that we haven't gotten as much from. This is a lot less Rand-centric as a book. It doesn't do an amazing job with it, because Perrin is not yet interesting. No. That's the wrong way to say. He's got the wolf thing going on, right? And he saves Gaul, and he meets, I think, Loam was the guy's name. The man who wants to be a wolf all the time, that helps him with his revelation in book 12. That setup is amazing, by the way. This character's little, few pages introduces an entirely new layer of conflict in Perrin's story. And it had to, because this is the first book where we get a lot of Perrin perspective. We got a little bit with the White Cloak stuff in book 1, and we learned who Perrin was, that serious stoic character that, could I kill Egwene, end it quickly if I had to, that kind of guy, right? But now we get a lot more of him And Perrin always comes across as young to me in this one. I get that he's got a sort of stoicism to him that makes him feel older than his two friends, but he always just it almost regresses in this book, because I don't know what's going on there, but he's fussing about having to take care of Moraine's horse and how she'll give him a look, and there's this whole thing going on with him. That plot line is okay. We get introduced to Fael in this plot line. I will say up front, a lot of the readers really hate Fael, and I do not. I think that without her, Perrin's character didn't have a way to really develop, and that who she is makes sense once you learn more about her backstory. The only thing that I dislike about Fael is that whole segment with her and tricking Loyal in the ways, which is going to happen in the next book, but it's intentionally set up that way, and that's what creates the punch from later events. So we'll come back to that. It was a necessary storytelling element, I think, and I don't think Fael's a bad character, particularly when we get introduced to her. Robert Jordan still working out the kinks on how to write a love story. I think that the show could do a better job of that. I actually hope that if I'm right and season 2 of the show gets bumped up to 8 episodes from 6, then I assume that they will do the Great Hunt through to the end of The Dragon Reborn in season 2. And if that happens, I hope that we meet Fael early on. I do. I hope that we come across her even before, the battle at Falma. It would be nice if... that's probably too much movement. That might be moving things around too much. But the sooner we can get introduced to that character, the sooner we can open up Perrin's dynamic with her. And I keep saying this all from the perspective of one of our 3 Ta'Viren, just because they are central characters to the plot. But I think that Fael is a great supporting character in her own right, and that even including some of her own perspective is really valuable, if only to see how much she grows a few seasons later when we go into that whole Shido capture sequence, which I don't think that you can cut it out of the plot. I think that you can minimize it and the stuff with Massima, and that Jordan's writing drug all that out, but not that it in and of itself is a bad plot by any means. It's really a fantastic way of showing Perrin and Fael grow as leaders. So there we go. Talking about foreshadowing in this book. I did forget to mention that in book 1, and I'm going back to this now because it finally struck me. I think I said in the last video that it would at some point. There is this sequence where Loyal mentions that a man showed up in the steading, and he didn't feel well, but after he got in the steading, he got better really quickly, and he was talking about the eye of the world, right? And he doesn't say it like that, but that's what Moraine interprets it as and figures out. That man, we will, one of Robert Jordan's stories that he tells almost entirely off screen, and you got to be able to put the pieces together. That man was one that we will meet later and call Noel, Jane Farstrider. So it is fantastic that he recognized that Ishamael was manipulating him by giving him these messages and sending him towards the steading, making him sick, etc. It's probably all just compulsion, by the way. He might not have even really been sick. But he carried that message each and every time to these various setting, and there were other things that Ishamael did that set the path for Rand to go to the Eye of the World. And that's why the Forsaken knew to show up there, and none of that could be understood in Book 1. You had to wait till much later to figure out that that the Dark One was actually manipulating events to set this up to happen, and that he is trying to harden Rand and drive him on his journey. That way he doesn't waste this cycle. So, just some brilliant stuff going on there. The Dragon Reborn as a novel does not have as much setup. I think that we're more into the meat of the story that Jordan is trying to tell at this point. There is some great foreshadowing about Elida's character. Obviously, there was some pretty good foreshadowing in Book 1. We got to learn the combination of her. That is a deer. I'm gonna slow down. God, it is beautiful out here. Look at this, folks. Look at that. You just don't get that every day. So, in Book 1, we got to learn about Elida's character. We got to learn that she was kind of strict, kind of stuffy, and also that stuff could happen right under her nose and she wouldn't notice it, which is just completely informs on her character. Just an arrogant, kind of an asshole person. No, not kind of. She's bad. But someone who stubbornly thinks that they're always right and just does not pay enough attention to the things around them to actually be right. It's a tough combo. People are going to love to hate her in this show. So, in Book 3, she has gone off to the White Tower, and I'm pretty sure she runs into Min Farshall. And that, no, that's Book 4, isn't it? See, this is why I should reread before doing this. Yeah, that's Book 4. But in Book 3, she did travel out, and she's at the White Tower for sure by then, because she did that in Book 2. And Elida is already stirring up trouble with the Supergirls. I'm pretty sure that she's interrogating them about Rand because of the foretelling that she had, which, if Elida didn't keep all of her foretellings secret, it would really solve some problems for a lot of people. But even the one that she does with Morghese back in Book 1, that's another foretelling I didn't mention in Book 1. There's just all kinds of prophecy going on in that book. But even that one, she hid part of it and whispered it under her breath. That way Morghese didn't hear it. She's a tricky, sneaky character. I'm pretty sure that at some point she kills a girl trying to track down Elaine and Nynaeve. Robert Jordan is really, really attempting to misdirect us here on whether or not Elida is a dark friend. And he did a pretty good job of it. I know that later on we figure out that she's not, but Elida's just an interesting character. I don't like her at all. Nobody would. She is meant to be hated, and she's very good at it. So we've got some weird stuff going on in the tower. There's a couple of gray men. There's that moment that everybody forgets about where the gray man gets killed, and then we'll later figure out, much later in the series, that it was Shiriam who killed her, or him. We never know with gray men. Actually, I think we do. I think it says that most of them are men. But yeah, there's that incident where the gray man gets killed with the knife, and Nynaeve's like, she didn't mention the knife, and you get that whole bit. And then the Supergirls get sort of pushed off towards pushed off towards Tyr. Matt, of course, is waking up and eating a lot, and we finally get to meet this character that I don't know if season 1 is going to sell him very well. I know that he is one of the characters that will probably be overdeveloped compared to where they are in the book series for season 1 of the show. But unless they really change his plot line, he's going to be kind of unlikable in season 1, and it's going to take a while, for them to get him to a place where we really can enjoy his character. So Matt goes through this whole thing. He has that awesome battle that everybody talks about with Gawain and Galad. I will say, all of these guys who are training with the sword are learning the sword too fast. They should know it somewhat. I recognize. God, look at that with the God rays coming in. Look at that. They should know the sword somewhat for Gawain and Galad. But I don't know. It just between them and Rand learning the blade, and Rand is definitely getting a crash course in using a sword between the last book and this one. It all feels a little too fast, don't you think? But it's probably necessary for plot reasons. In any case, Matt whoops these two like a redheaded stepchild, and he is off to the races, doing his own thing, sneaking out of Tarvalin with the Amerlin's letter that they gave to Nynaeve and Egwene, which I love. They're on their way down to Tyr. Of course, right as Elaida left Caemlyn, it seems that Robin swooped in and pretty much took over the throne. I don't know how the timing on that worked out. I never could understand quite how long Elaida has been gone. I know why she left, but I don't know how long she's been gone, and if Robin is supposed to be as strong a channeler as Rand is. So I can't imagine that Elaida was threatening to him. So I'd love to know why he waited for her to leave, or if it was just happenstance that he was freed from the boar at this time and able to get out there and check things out. What the hell is this? Look at this. This looks like a whole different world. This is not the same color of... Is it just because it's foggy, but we're in the shadow? Yeah, it must be. Either that or there's a fire somewhere around here. Never know. Okay, so we get this whole plot line with Matt going to save the girls who are themselves misled into chasing the Black Aja, who is in and of itself sent that direction by I think one of the Forsaken, as a consequence of them kind of being ousted as Black Aja by Leandrin's actions in the previous book, which probably means that Simmerhog was driving this whole thing, since she was the one that wanted the deal with the Shan-Chan, and she understood the relationship between the characters of Nynaeve and Egwene and Rand, who at this point they were aware was the Dragon Reborn, so given his time at the Eye of the World. So it's really interesting. The Forsaken are some of my favorite characters. These are the ones that they drive more of the plot than you think when you start examining what the Shadow is doing. And I don't think that there's quite enough going on to be able and track down who did what and what all of their actions and machinations are. throughout the series behind the scenes, but there is enough that we can pick out some of it. I'm also pretty sure that it's around this point that we start jumping into no. Next book and the book after. That's where we're going to start getting into Tel Riyadh more, and we're going to start experiencing a lot of fascinating stuff with the Forsaken. This one, there is obviously an introduction to it, because Varen gives Egwene the ring, and that stone Tur Angreal ring is gorgeous. It's gorgeous out here. It's the perfect day. So that stone ring is gonna allow her to enter this world of dreams, and she's gonna kind of learn a little bit. I think it helps propel them towards the Stone of Tyr. I don't quite remember if that's true or not, but this is Robert Jordan again setting up a sequence of events that all of our characters start in different places and they all converge, and when they converge it drives the plot forward even more, because their interactions and the new things that they learn and share between one another helps inform them on other things that are going on in the world. It's all very fluid. The Dragon Reborn, I don't think, is as strong, just because it's jarring for Rand to be out of it for most of the book. But I love Egwene's introduction to the world of dreams, meeting the Aiel, and then later on, of course, the Aiel show up in their real lives, and then later on, I think that's where we meet Aviendha, actually. Yeah, it is. And then later on, different Aiel get met by Perrin. He meets Gaul. Gaul's a great character for the entire series. Gaul is a bro. Gaul is in the world of dreams, in A Memory of Light with Perrin trying to fight Slayer. That dude just does anything. Taking out Aiel male channelers with the filed down teeth and everything, right? Which, by the way, there's foreshadowing to that coming later on. We were trying to figure out where these dreadlords are going to come from. We get the Black Tower kind of as a misdirect, and there are references in this book to the Sharans. There's references to the Shan-Shan, and then we also learn about what happens to male Aiel channelers whenever they go, whenever they find out that they can channel, right? And we find out the Dark One's not been killing them. And I think that these things all together, combined with a little more land backstory about what happened to Isom, these are all fantastic bits of world building that are also great foreshadowing that's being set up in this book. In any case, Aiel are popping up all over the place, and then they, of course, kind of help Matt into the Stone of Tyr, and Rand doesn't even understand why they're there, and then suddenly they are helping him overtake it, and they're the people of the dragon, and they get to connect the dots, and then that pushes us straight into the next book. It's great. The Aiel are a phenomenally well-written culture. They are just my favorite. I think Robert Jordan knew he had something special with them. And he dove right into it. The end of this book has the incident with Bilal getting just nuked by Moraine instantly, which is good. That's good subversion. I think I would have liked for it to have ended there. If Rand had properly killed Ishamael in Falma, and he didn't show up again in this book trying to fight a Rand who has Kalendor, that would have been better. But it is what it is. Robert Jordan wanted to give an end to that sequence. However, just not my favorite. It feels like, I remember when I first read through these books, I sat there I found out that there were 13 Forsaken, and at the time there were 10 books out, but I knew the 11th was coming, and I thought to myself, oh, okay, is it going to be one book per Forsaken? And then by the time we got to this book, I was thinking, okay, so we've had 3 dead Forsaken. We've got Agenor, we've got Balthamel, and we've got now Balal. We got introduced to Robin. We got introduced to Lanfear. We had the characters do that cool section where they're crossing through Ilion, and Moraine just shows up and she's like, Samael's in Ilion. Get your shit, we're going. And, that was great. We got introduced to Darkhounds, which had to happen right after Perrin learned more about his wolf connection, because now it's like, oh, there's like evil wolves, because we're learning more about wolves, and there's a wolf dream, and also there's Tel Aranriad, and see, it all just like connects together. It's brilliant, right? But I remember thinking by the end of this one, okay, are we gonna fight and kill this guy at the end of every book? Is that what's gonna happen? And to me, on my initial read through, the combination of Les Rand and that ending was kind of disappointing. I liked where things were going. I just didn't like where they were presented as much. And I don't know if this is my own bias, but I still feel that way. There are some monumental things that happen in this book, but to me, this book feels like setup. It is the climax of Act 1, right? So we've had our rising action, and now we want to hit with this end bit, and we're also going to spend a lot of time setting up Act 2, as it were. And that's just always what I think about when I read The Dragon Reborn. I do like it, but I like it more for how it brings a close to this part of the series. And I think that because of that, I would give it around probably a 7.5. Yeah, The Dragon Reborn's right around there for me. I will also, I forgot to say earlier, this is where we last see Massima and Uno for quite a while, and in another fantasy series, something like that might have been dropped. It would have been easy to say they went back to the Borderlands, and that been the end of it. But no, Robert Jordan doesn't do that. He knows where he planted his seeds, and he's going to come back to it much later. I like that. I do also think that this is one of the more prominent instances of seeing the true power used. In that is how Ishamael was fighting with Rand at this point. It's very different. It's very... The way that Ishamael fights in this fight scene doesn't gel with what we understand of the One Power, but we don't yet have the context to understand what he's doing, because we have not seen the vision in Ruidian, and we haven't spent enough time with other members of the Forsaken, and we don't know what a Saw is, and there's just all this stuff that, as a reader, we're still uninformed on our first time through. On the second time through, you can look at it and you can go, oh, I know what this is. Okay, this is cool. And that's why a second reread is so important, because, it's not like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, to me, doesn't have I shouldn't call it Game of Thrones. That's the TV show. No. Actually, I do want to use the TV show here. The book series A Song of Ice and Fire does this a little bit differently, and I think better. But in the TV show, Game of Thrones, there was this issue, even if the ending didn't totally collapse any rewatchability for the show, even by the time we got to like season 5 or 6, right? I thought that it was really hard to go back and watch seasons 1 and season 2, because all of the characters whose perspectives you get and storylines you follow are dead before you're halfway through. So even though at the time when we were first watching it, they felt really important, they didn't matter at all. And that just tanks rewatchability. To me. Because you just don't care. You know that this is like this is a dead end. So what are we really getting out of this section, right? Robert Jordan doesn't do that, not only because Moraine doesn't die, because the other characters don't die. Obviously, Moraine is gone for quite a while here. So his lack of character death could remove some of the tension, some of the stakes, but it also makes each of the character lines more readable. It's just what it is, and also I think it was brilliant to not have the Gandalf character, Moraine, or if you're an Aragon fan, this would be Brom, right? If Brom died in book 1, you just don't care as much about Brom. He seemed cool, but he's gone, right? Larton Creepsley waited long enough in the series, and in just that same way, was it Larton Creepsley? That sounds right to me. It's been a long time since I touched a Darren Shan novel. So in that same way, waiting till book 5 to have Moraine perish is a fantastic idea. It's long enough that the readers get comfortable that she's always going to be there. Okay. So that's not super about the Great Hunt, but I am loving watching the relationships evolve. I still think that this one just had a little bit of a weird pace and setup, and that it is trying to set up next, future novels, and getting into the next chunk of the series, which to my mind is going to be everything from, I kind of break it up into a 3-act structure, right? Where the first act is those first 3 books. I think that it could be argued that it's the first 4 books, but to me, Shadow Rising is the start of the second act of this series. It's where it opens up a ton. It is absolutely going to be praised by me in this video this evening because it's one of my favorite novels. I think it might be my favorite. It's either it or A Memory of Light or The Gathering Storm. It's right there, folks. It's up there. Lord of Chaos, obviously, is a lot of people's, but we'll come back to that. So we're going to get into the Shadow Rising. We're going to get to talk about it and Act 2 starting off. I think Act 2 ends with Winter's Heart, and I think that Act 3 properly is everything from Knife of Dreams through to the end of the series. So I will see you guys next time.